What is going on, good people? Back at it again. A little real quick video on this craziness that is Greg Roman stepping down as offensive coordinator of the Ravens. What? Have we been waiting for this for like 2 years? What is going on, good people? DJ here. I'm gonna quickly just touch on this and then I'm gonna be out y'all's way because man, I tell you, Gregory then slipped on out. Gregory then hit the slide on out. He done slid out the back door on us. What does this mean though? What what does this mean? Does it matter? Right? Like that's the questions I want to pose to y'all. Like, does it matter? What does it mean? Like, who knows? Right? Because here's the thing. Right? Because initially, I was in a Ravens Twitter space when the news came through, when they had the presser back on Thursday. And I was excited. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was excited because it leaves room for change, right? It leaves room for something a little bit different. It leaves room for it. Honestly, bro, it leaves room to expand this offense a little bit more, to make this offense a little bit less predictable, to help with the situational play calling, which seems to be an issue all around the entire Ravens organization when it comes to when it comes to this team. But that that point actually, it brings up a solid point, right? This can only work if the organization is willing to stop this whole "we're gonna zig while everybody else is zagging" thing, right? Because here's the thing: the zigging while everybody else is zagging thing works if you're committed to that cause, right? There's nothing wrong with being the team that runs the football and plays good defense. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, absolutely, like that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still have to have not only high level quarterback play, but high level coaching on top of that when it comes to the offensive end, right? You have to. We've talked about this all season long. You have to be right. You have to be disciplined, right? You have to be unpredictable in this league, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that, that's my biggest thing. And the Ravens have had a predictability problem, especially when it comes to situationally, right? Like, ironically enough, they do the unpredictable thing, but it doesn't work, right? They get into the red zone and they start throwing the ball 3 straight times instead of handing the ball off to the Gus Bus or handing the ball off to J.K. Dobbins when you have that there. So hopefully that gets fixed. But at the same time, going back to it, there's an organizational issue too, right? Because the Ravens have always been run the football, play good defense, but there has to be a threat passing the football, right? And that's more so with the weapons that you surround Lamar Jackson with, right? Like right now, I think the first thing before this search even starts, right, that deal has to get done because this job isn't as desirable, right, if that contract isn't signed because everybody, right, or most, I would say most either off, and let me say it like this: most offensive coaches, with the exception of coordinators who are already, of course, employed, would want to work, and some of them probably in the same breath would want to work with Lamar Jackson, want to be a part of the next step of his development, right? Most of those guys, there's going to be guys that want to challenge Lamar Jackson too, right? And put him in situations where he can kind of be out of his comfort zone a little bit, right? Like, and oddly enough, might be truly his comfort zone, but we don't know that yet, right? Like, we you know what I'm saying? Like the crazy part about it is we've seen the highest of highs that Lamar Jackson can be at, right? That's being an MVP. But I don't think we've truly seen his ceiling yet, right? Because, that's the thing, and I was talking about this before, right? If you take Lamar Jackson and you put him in the Dolphins offense with the talent that they have, and with an offensive coach like Mike McDonald, I mean, you might as well shut the league down, with Lamar's ability to evade, Lamar's ability to run if he needs to, get out of dodge, and talent that's going to allow him to make some easier throws, that's huge. So I'm not saying let's ship Lamar off to Lamar. I'm not saying let's ship Lamar off to Miami. I'm saying why don't we mirror that style, right? Go grab someone from the offensive tree of Miami or San Francisco, or one of these big offensive coaches, and what you got to do is you got to go, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to grab from that tree. Like, let's go in a different direction. Instead of going with the safe pick, the safe bet, the guy who is, the easy choice because he fits into the Ravens way and the Ravens organization, you might have to, let's use their words against them here, you might have to zag while everybody's zigging, right? You might have to zig while everybody's zagging, right? And why don't you, against your own general philosophy, against your own comfort zone when it comes to we want to run the football and play good defense, why don't you bring in an offensive coach that is a master at what he does? And then that way, hey, right? You that the sky's the limit. Because imagine this team with a coach that's not as situationally bad as Greg Roman was, but also at the same time a coach that can challenge Lamar Jackson and challenge, hey, we need receivers, we need talent around here. Like, we gonna have to make this offense a premium from now on, because having JK and Gus, your run game's good. The offensive line, I think, will continue to mesh together as you go along. But then on top of that, if you can have an offensive mind that is a little bit more passing centric, I don't think this team's ever going to have a lack of a run game. I just don't, right? And that's fine, right? You gotta have a balance. But I have to be, as a defensive coordinator, I have to be threatened by your passing game, right? I have to be threatened by the weapons you have on the outside. And even in the end of the season presser, they said a lot of things, and they said, we're going to focus on wide receiver. We're going to kind of redo the wide receiver room, right? And I mean, and that's the thing, and that goes back to it too, like going back to getting this deal done with Lamar, because that's the biggest thing you have to do, right? There's no need, like John Harbaugh doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild, so there's no need to rebuild, right? There's no there's no need. Like, a lot of people say, let's blow it up. I'm like, why would you do that, right? You can win a Super Bowl right now if you get some talent on the outside, right? And you get an offensive coach that is going to challenge other defenses, right? Not just lean on the greatness of Lamar. Imagine having the greatness of Lamar in the back pocket, right? You got the greatness of Lamar and what he can do in the back pocket. You got a couple of easy throws that he doesn't really get right now, right? You got more separation from the scheme within the offense. You got more talent on the outside, and you pair it with these tight ends that you drafted last year, and you pair that with as good as that running game is going to be, right? And you pair that with as good as the defense has the potential of being. You put those things together, and this has all the makings of being a good offense. But we've been in this situation before, right? No offensive coordinator search going on. Like, they got to bring in a headstrong guy, I think, right? Like a headstrong offensive coach, right? A guy maybe like a Leftwich, or a guy from the one of the Kubiaks would be good. Somebody from the 49ers coaching tree, somebody from Shanahan's coaching tree, in general, right? Maybe a Frank Reich, right? Maybe, right? Maybe a Frank Reich. But like, I think it would be nice to have somebody who has a little bit to prove too, right? Who has something that they want to showcase. Hey, I can do this. Eric Bieniemy would also be a good one. I don't know if he would do it, but this would give him an opportunity to call plays, because a lot of people say that Andy Reid calls the plays over there, so that's why Bieniemy doesn't really get the credit. But it'll be interesting, right? It'll be interesting to see what direction they go in. But I think the first thing is, why don't you make the because this is you're gonna cast a wide net and all this, and this job is one of the most desirable jobs. It's not yet, right? Like, If you lock up Lamar Jackson, then you got people lining up saying, "Hey, I want this job." But like, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to interview and say, "Y'all going to sign Lamar?" Right? Because once again, I talked about this before, but like, you can get talent, right? Whether it's through the draft, whether you need to trade somebody, and I mean, we know EDC is big on trades, right? So if you need to trade somebody, you can find, like, Chuck Clark's a guy you can get some draft picks, out of that. You might can get a receiver maybe out of that, right? Like, you can figure out some ways to get receiver talent, but you got to have at least one guy who's been there, done that, and has a big future ahead of him too, right? Because I mean, that's the thing, right? We even saw it this year how explosive this offense could be with just Bateman and Duvernay, and then having Demarcus Robinson as a three with, of course, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely out there, right? So imagine having that guy, that dude at wide receiver, and then on top of that, right? On top of that, when you add one, you add that one more guy. I mean, they could get away with adding two more guys, but I think at least one more guy, at least one more established guy like a D Hop or a top rookie wide receiver, right? A top draft pick wide receiver. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, would I rather have the third best wide receiver or the number one corner? And I would say, considering every expense has been given to the defense, I would say the third best wide receiver. Because imagine you have a class like you had when AJ Brown and DK Metcalf and these guys came out, right? Like, the third best receiver is still really solid, right? The third best receiver might be the best receiver in the class, right? Because I mean, even like I'm trying to think of the receivers that were drafted in Jerry Jeudy's draft class. Let me see if I can see it real quick. I don't remember who was picked in that draft class, because let me look at the 2020 draft real quick. I don't know. It's escaping my mind. Like, it's escaping my, so in the 2022 draft class, right? So just think about this. Like, would I rather have the first best corner? And I'm not saying that this draft class is as talented as the draft class that we saw in 2020, but like, you got Justin Jefferson in that class, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Chase Claypool, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, and Henry Ruggs in that class, right? So even the third best receiver, like, let's say the third best receiver, and I'm just spitballing. Don't hold me to this, right? But let's say based off of the pick. So Ruggs was the first one taken, I think. So just because of the situation, we'll skip him and we'll say Jeudy, CeeDee, and Justin Jefferson, right? So Justin Jefferson was the third wide receiver out of that crop of guys. Justin Jefferson is still pretty good, right? I think we all know that, right? Justin Jefferson is still pretty good. Brandon Ayuk is still pretty good. Even Claypool is still good, right? Like, I think Claypool and maybe Shenault have been the two that have kind of faltered out of that class. But yes, I would take the third best wide receiver. We're talking about the third best wide receiver, not the 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th, 20th best wide receiver. That's the issue that the Ravens have, right? Because here's the thing, and it all depends on what you do in free agency too. But if the Ravens don't grab a receiver, then what are they going to do? Right? If the Ravens don't grab a receiver in free agency, then they go to the draft and they're like, well, the best player available is a corner, right? Then you back in the fourth round picking, right? You're back in the fourth round picking receivers again, hoping that they break out for you. That's the issue that I'm having, right? I honestly think, in my opinion, I think you try to re-sign Marcus Peters, right, to a vet friendly, to a team friendly deal. I think you try to re-sign Kyle Fuller to a team friendly deal, and you have young corners. Why continue to draft young corners if you're not going to use them? What's the point of drafting Pepe if you're not going to use them? What's the point of drafting Jalen Armour-Davis if you're not going to use them, right? If you can't keep Marcus Peters, you can at least keep Kyle Fuller, or vice versa. I think you keep one of them, right? Let Peters get healthy and let's see what's left in him. Because, I mean, he just came off of a significant injury. I'm sure he wasn't 100%. He got thrown into the fire way quicker than I think he expected. So That's my biggest thing, right? Like, and I don't know, like that's the thing. Like, I don't really know. I don't know this draft class of receivers like that. I'm gonna try my best to learn a little bit more, because it's kind of hard to like even looking like. So, for example, right? And I can't. I'm just gonna look at the wide receiver rankings from, and I guess it's hard because if you're looking at a guy like Sauce Gardner, right, as the number one, so let's just take it to last year, right? Let's say you're picking last year, right? The third ranked receiver technically was Drake London, right? Who went to the Falcons, which I think he was the first. I think he's ranked third here, but I think he was the first guy taken. Um, it's just crazy. Let me look at something real quick. NFL draft 2022 wide receivers. I just want to see, like, because I'm just trying to think, like, based off of the, because I'm trying to put this to the test, right? Because I know Sauce, right? Like, I think Sauce was the first corner taken. So you put Sauce with Marlowe, if you put, so let's say you put a guy with Sauce's potential with Marlowe, yes, the defense is shut down, right? Like I get that, but like, couldn't you still do that with the third best corner, right? By that logic, right? Like I don't know. Um, it's just it's just weird to me because so you got Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, right? So, and I mean, if I look at that, right, if would I take Drake London over Sauce? That's a tough distinction to make because who knows, right? Like that, I would still, I think, just because you've given the defense everything, I would lean more into the offensive end. You never have, right? You never have put an emphasis on skill positions, especially when it comes to wide receiver, when it comes to the offensive end. So I think personally, in thinking about that question, I would take the third best receiver over the first, over the top corner, right? Because I think this team is always going to be good at corner, I think. Right? Like, I mean, if you look at it, and they're good at getting value at corner too, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Pepe is good, is pretty good. I think Jalen Armour Davis could be pretty good too. So I think there's potential. But like Drake London, Garrett Wilson, like, would I be mad if we got Chris Olave? You know what I'm saying? Now, albeit these are like guys who were picked pick 8, pick 10, pick 11. So you wouldn't even have made it to those guys. But it just, I mean, I'm just thinking, right? I'm just thinking, like, why don't you make an emphasis? Why don't you put an emphasis on offense? Like I don't really know, and I'm about to do a little more research on who's coming out this year. But if this is supposed to be a deep wide receiver class anyway, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm gonna lean more into offense right now. I just am. But anyway, definitely hope you guys enjoyed. Greg Roman out as offensive coordinator. What does that mean for the Ravens? I mean, long story short, I think it just means, hopefully a new philosophy, right? We'll get a little bit more of what hopefully Lamar wants to do, as opposed to what Greg Roman is stuck in his ways and doing. So we'll see what happens. But as always, you can always watch or listen to Flock Nation Speaks on Facebook or YouTube if you want to watch. If you want to listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, etc., etc. Excuse me. But you can definitely check me out on all those platforms. I'll see you guys on definitely on the next one. I'll be back. I had a topic and I didn't write it down, so now I done lost it. But I'll be back. Should be an interesting weekend with the divisional round. I think the Chiefs win over the Jags. I think, what else we got? The Giants. I don't know. The Giants Eagles game is interesting, right? Because the Eagles should win that game, and I think they swept the Giants. But as the Giants have kind of come into themselves, I think there's going to be a way better game than I think anybody ever thought it was going to be. I'll go Eagles though. So it's the safe pick, right? Like, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants won this game. Then it makes an interesting NFC Championship game, doesn't it? But Bengals at Bills, another tough one, right? Another game where it's like, who knows, right? Who knows what the heck's gonna happen on that one? I hope the Bills win, even though I don't want the Bills to win. I don't want either of these teams to win. This is a terrible matchup for me, but I'm gonna go with the Bills. I'm gonna go with the Bills, and then I think the Bills end up losing in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs get back to where they want to be, and then Cowboys Niners. I think the Niners win that game. Like I think the Cowboys looked good last week, but I mean, considering who they were playing, it's one of those things. But I think the Niners are just a really well coached team. And it would be interesting to see like the Giants versus the Niners, right? The Niners with their third string quarterback, and then the Giants who just look like they're coming into their own. Like that would be an interesting NFC Championship game. And I like Daniel Jones so much. I mean, it looks like they're leaning towards extending him, which I'm excited about. I think he's got an unfair shake to a certain degree too. Like, we'll see what happens though. It should be a fun weekend. We'll see you guys on the next one. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your picks down below if you got them, if you get to this video fast enough. And also, what's your thoughts? Greg Roman, he's gone. Raven even said, I'm hyped. Until next time.